What's going on, everybody? This is Joe.
And Amy.
And we are back once again for another Varia deck review. This is where we open the deck, we look through all the cards, we talk about some of the lore and the art, etc. Our first impressions, having not seen any of these cards before. Shoutouts to Guildhouse Games, the creators of Varia, who sent us this deck to review. So for full disclosure purposes, be aware of that while you watch this. But hey, we've done reviews of the other 7 decks as well. So please feel free to click or tap in the top right-hand corner of that iCard so that you can see our previous reviews and what we think of all of these decks so far. Each of the decks do have their own video, and so you can see that in that playlist. Also, if you're interested in knowing how the game is played, they have a PDF on their website, they being Guildhouse Games, have a PDF on their website, but if you want to see some more practical aspects of play, we actually had the opportunity to play an exhibition game.
Yes.
Against our good friend Dave over on Twitch. But he streamed it on Twitch, we streamed it here on our channel, and so if you want to see it from our perspective, you can check the iCard right about now, and you will see that as well linked for you, so please feel free to check that out. Shoutouts are appropriate to give to Guildhouse Games because since we did our last set of videos for these decks, they have had a successful launch and end to their Kickstarter campaign.
Yes, amazing. They did very well.
Yes, we were super happy. We were happy to be contributors as well as viewers and fans. So congratulations to them on that. But this deck that we are going over today, as you can see, the Dragon Knight deck is not from the Kickstarter. This was also self-funded by the company to go along with their original 7 decks. This is their 8th, and this is the Dragon Knight deck.
Yes.
I am excited to get into this. We have enjoyed doing all of the others so far, and so I'm sure this one will be...
This one is interesting.
Yes, even just looking at the front, one thing that I noticed and Amy mentioned to me before we started, you know, if you notice, compared to the other ones that you can see even behind you, right, and it's not a forced perspective thing because this is a little bit closer, look at the size of the word Varia on these other decks here, and then look at it on the front of the Dragon Knight. Also, something that I noticed is, look at how much background you can see on the 6th Blade, the Cosmic Mage, the Death Pirate, the Volcanic Warrior, and even the Shadow Assassin, right, that's behind it there.
Yeah.
Obviously, on the sides, we have Mystic Monk and Divine Paladin as well. They're off camera, you can't quite see them, but again, check out those videos, you'll be able to see them in full. But with the Dragon Knight, the size of this character...
It's a very fierce close-up.
Yes, and it leads us to believe that this is supposed to be big, and just the way that they framed it, the way that they kind of give you that perspective on this deck box really makes it seem like this character is massive, especially in comparison to the other kind of 7 characters that are here. So
and to the word Varia.
Yeah, exactly. You know, that maybe Varia in this one compared to this one is like in the background more because he's just so big and imposing. So cool. I mean, the colors are awesome. I'm sure we'll get into more of the detail of it when we get inside. But before we do that, let's look at the back. So first of all, one of the things that I look at, the deck difficulty. This is considered an intermediate deck with difficulty 3 out of 5. And we've seen kind of all over the spectrum with these from our other reviews as well. It says, unleash your inner dragon. Unleash your fury with this all-new class deck. As the Dragon Knight, you'll rain fire on your foes and use your dragon rage to blast a path to victory. Your opponent woke your inner dragon. Burn them to the ground. Amazing.
This art is spectacular. Can you zoom in on that or bring it closer or something? Yeah, because there's a lot of glare on it.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah. So cool.
You guys can't even understand. Like, you can't tell how amazing it looks in real life.
Yes. And I will say, as we've learned in the past, typically, and who knows, again, we're going into this somewhat blind, but in the past, that has been on a card, so hopefully we'll get to that card as well, so that we can look at it maybe in its original card frame as well.
Yeah, because the lights and darks, the brush strokes on that are awesome.
Yes, I am reminded of the fact that these are very tightly packed. Rightfully so. It's a good thing.
There's a soft texture that doesn't really come through on the camera, but especially on the wings themselves.
Yeah.
They really do look like see-through, you know,
but the light colored behind it, yeah.
Yeah, they have a translucency to them that real wings like that probably would have.
Right, well, and if you look at it compared to how imposing they look on the front, right? Really, really awesome. I am very grateful that I was able to get that open as easy as I was. That was good.
Something
good
Joe
stuff.
mentioned earlier was that on the front cover of this box, you've got these sort of horns coming off of the head of the creature that sort of go in front of the word Varia, whereas the wings are behind the word Varia.
Yes.
Which really like lends itself to sort of showing you how close you are to the head of this thing and how far you are from the wings of it. It really kind of helps you know how big this thing is.
Ah, okay. So interesting. In the box, we have a little insert, which again is the same art from the front without the word Varia, and a little bit more detailing at the bottom because the name is not there, obscuring that. So let's move that a little bit closer for all of you to see. Very nice. I like that a lot. That looks really cool. So there's that. On the back, typically what we have seen from them. So if you're interested, here's the information. If you're interested in learning more about Varia and Guildhouse Games LLC, you can keep up to date with all their latest offerings by going to their website, guildhousegamesllc.com. Come join our guild. So story-driven, player-focused. Please feel free, as I said, it's right there, or you can check the links in the description as well. But something else that I wanted to talk about, if you're unaware of our interests on this channel, this section on the Dragon Knight I'm going to read in a second because it's flavor. But also, if you want to learn to play and you want to scan this QR code, I'll leave it on the screen for like 5 seconds. So you can feel free to do that. You can obviously always pause the video and get your device to do that as well. But again, or check the link in the description. But for this section, this says, Sir Aaron's tale is one of tragedy. A squire who sought knighthood, not to fight for the common good, but to kill in the name of his king. When Aaron was tasked in slaying the dragon of Mount Airy, he did not take pause to consider why his king might ask such a thing of his new champion. Instead, the newly knighted Sir Aaron took up his great lance Flameburge and set out on a journey that would seal his fate. Sir Aaron may have slain the dragon, but he did not defeat it. Will you? And then the quote here, for knighthood is not in the feats of war. I'm going to hold this up so that I can read it. Sorry. But in a cause which truth cannot defer. He ought himself for to make sure and strong. Justice to keep mixed with mercy among. And no quarrel a knight ought to take, but for a truth or for the common's sake. And that quote is attributed to Stephen Hawes, the true knight.
Nice.
Spectacular. We're all about flavor and story here on this channel. So, yeah, very nicely done. I like that little insert there.
I love in this picture, too, how this sword looks.
Oh, over here,
like,
yeah.
So
really
scary and insane and like thatchy looking, almost like Maleficent made it.
Sure.
You know, out of the like brambles.
Sure.
But as soon as I thought how cool that was, I then thought, but you could never use it.
What do you mean?
Because it would be such a bitch to clean. Wouldn't it? Look at all these like little holes that would just be little bacteria holders.
He may not
of all
care.
that viscera.
He may not care.
Yeah, he probably doesn't. But you know, I would if it was my sword.
Of course. So let's get into the cards themselves in this deck. The first card that we are looking at is this one, Fevered Upstroke.
Wow.
So this is the first instance of Dragon Rage being listed on a card. So again, if you watch that video of us playing, you'll then understand the mechanic, but it says Dragon Rage. When you plan this action, you may create an inner dragon token as a combo with this action. If you do, create a vulnerable token in the following moment as a replacement. Interesting.
The art, definitely very knightly looking.
Yeah, and notably, especially based on the flavor text here, the flavor text on the card says, Aaron trembled within his armor. Was it the thrill of battle or something more? And if you look at Sir Aaron in this art versus Sir Aaron in that art, there is a very distinct difference.
Right.
Which to me means something happened.
So this is the lance that they were referring to here.
Yes. Yep.
It's very glary.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you.
So this is the lance here, which is remarkably beautiful.
Yeah.
Craftsmanship, and very unusual for how a lance would look.
Yes.
But I mean, you can see the horns here. So it's definitely the same horns as are apparent on the front cover.
Correct.
So I guess we're going to get to see Sir Aaron go from a regular looking knight turned into this sort of beast that he, I guess, becomes.
Yeah. Which is awesome.
Based on this flavor text, it seems like he's being taken over by this sort of demon.
Well, dragon. Like, you know, it seems like...
But it's like, it looks very demon-y.
Well, it says, right, Sir Aaron may have slain the dragon, but he did not defeat it. So,
So
if he killed the dragon
goes inside of him.
Seems that way. It seems that way. So that's really, really awesome.
Yeah.
And again, right, the Dragon Rage says you may create an inner dragon token. So yeah, he's releasing his inner dragon.
Cool.
It's really awesome.
The other thing I would say about this armor here is this general area. They sort of almost make this look like a mouth, like teeth.
Oh, okay. Sure.
You know, and then it's got these spikes sticking off of it.
Yeah.
Even the helmet, they've sort of made it more reptilian looking almost.
It's so pretty. Like, it's just very clean and pretty, which again is a stark contrast to this image, but they're both pretty badass. I appreciate that greatly.
Yeah, I think they really did a great job of kind of fusing the two in this picture, trying to show like a transition in the center of a typical knight and, you know, the cover picture.
Yeah.
They did a great job with the lighting in this, you know, the rendering, and making it look clean and shiny and beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that the
emblem in the center there?
Yeah.
In the center of his chest?
Yeah, it looks like a lotus.
Yeah, it kind of does.
I
don't know if that can really be seen.
It's kind of cool that we get to see that sort of to really kind of show that he started out as this wise and righteous knight.
Yeah.
Before he turned into this sort of amalgamation of scary dragon thing.
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, really cool. Really cool. They did an amazing job.
I like it. So then we move on to the next one, which is this. Let's make sure that everybody can see it. Ferocious Charge.
It's a little bit glary. Just tilt it forward. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So here's Ferocious Charge, another Dragon Rage card. Very, very nice. And it's a physical attack strength card, similar to the first one that we looked at. This is awesome. So you get to see a little bit more action, right? Like he was moving in the first one, but there wasn't an enemy to be seen in the first one. And so now you have some form of enemy that he has come across, which I like.
Yeah, this is great. Again, with the wings here where you can really see the light through the skin of it. It's really difficult to see on camera, but it's really got quite an effect in real life.
Yeah.
Beautiful how they had the sunlight shine behind the wings and behind the knight, sort of to say, again, sort of lending you to believing that righteousness exists, and he's fighting against the sort of evil creature here.
Sure. Yeah.
I noticed in this picture compared to the other picture that the armor is considerably more, it's getting closer to being
Yes.
this.
Yeah.
Right? It's got like shards sticking off of it. You know, it's craggy almost. It's less shiny and clean looking.
Right.
It's more kind of shadowy, and the helmet itself has like grown teeth. Really cool.
Awesome.
Really, really cool.
All right.
They did a great job with this.
Yeah.
So this seems to be like the stage right after the one that we just saw.
Step 2 kind of a thing.
Yeah.
All right. I appreciate that.
Was there flavor text on that?
Not this one, no.
Okay.
Maybe on the next one we shall see, but we'll go on to that one. The next one is Fierce Resolve. Again, we'll make sure everybody can see that. Again, so cool. Another Dragon Rage card.
Wow.
I love it. I actually like the flavor going along with the ability. So this is Fierce Resolve, and at the bottom there it says you cannot be forced to move this moment, because it's his Fierce Resolve. I like that a lot. It makes a lot of sense. And it's a block, right? So there's not as much physical attack going on in the art. It's very good. I think that this is good flavor for what the card does, as opposed to good flavor for the story as well, which is, again, also super important, but very nice.
Yeah, this is great. I love how they made his sort of hair, or like back of his head look.
Sure.
It's definitely got a nice sort of Asian dragon theme to it.
Okay.
Even though I kind of had more of a European dragon thought in my mind when thinking about where this was kind of going.
Sure.
But I like that they sort of went that way with it, because they saw a way to make his hair look dragony, which doesn't seem like a sentence that could be said. So they did it. You really see the lance in this one too, looking like it really looked in the first card.
Yeah.
Except a bit, yet again, like thornier, thatchier.
Well, and I like the fact that, I mean, it's a lance, right? So a lance is definitely not a weapon that you would think of as a defensive weapon, right? It's long, it's sharp, and yet in this instance, you're not seeing him holding it straight out. You're seeing him holding it diagonally in front of himself, so that it would actually be able to seemingly be used somewhat defensively, again, in combination with his wing there. Just a really, really cool blocking stance. I really like that.
Yeah, this stance to me almost looks more like he's already been beaten down and he's starting to get back up.
Okay, sure.
He's got that fierce
resolve. Yeah.
So he's like kneeling in the mud, you know, and his wings here, I love how his wings look here, because they look more like a banner.
Yeah.
A royal banner that a knight would carry.
Yeah.
And it's actually his wings.
Well, and there are in certain I don't know their names, bannerets, just people that would walk carrying the banners.
Them, yeah.
Like that's what they would do on the battlefield to up the morale of their troops, etc. It was kind of frowned upon to even on the opposing side, to kill the person holding the banner, because they were clearly not hostile towards you
right.
in that fight. They're just holding a banner. So
right. But that's really a symbol, right?
Of course.
Of what your empire stands for.
Yeah.
So again, kind of interesting. And I love the sort of hip part of the armor there.
Oh, okay.
Because again, we saw the lotus on his chest plate, and that piece looks very much like petals to me of a flower.
Okay.
So I think they really kept that theme going throughout.
Sure.
That motif.
I can also say from, I am not a person in the medical field, but I've done some training in it. And I can say from a medical perspective, I like the fact that there is some leg armor in that regard because, with the rest of what he's wearing, it looks like cloth on his lower half. And in that space, the fact that there is actual armor plating there is good because there are some major arteries in your leg. And so, people think like chest or head for the most vulnerable areas, but you get stabbed in the right place in your leg and you're not going anywhere regardless. That's that's the end of you, even if they don't aim for your heart or your brain or whatever.
Right.
So really nice to see some practical aspects of armor.
Yeah.
Usually you hear it these days in whatchamacallit, in discussions with female warriors and the fact that their armor in popular culture on occasion has been made to look more sexy than utilitarian. And so just in general, seeing a practical armor is nice to be able to notice and talk about. There is Fierce Resolve. Next we have a solo card, because the other two cards that we've looked at or the other cards we've looked at have been duplicates. This is a single card in the deck, a Brazen.
Wow. I love the art style on this.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Very different from what we've seen.
Yeah, and I'm
It's got a surrealist type style to it that I really love.
okay.
I love surrealist style art in fantasy properties because I think that makes sense because it's surrealist.
Yeah.
And I just love that.
Okay.
It's not something you typically see.
Okay.
It's not.
I have to say, with whoever Sir Aaron is fighting here, it seems like a very regal character, right? The person is standing there, straight-backed, chest puffed out, like they just seem like, I wouldn't even say necessarily strong, but like very full of themselves in terms of like who they are versus Sir Aaron. Like Sir Aaron looks like he is putting forth a fair amount of effort to fight this person.
Yeah.
And this person's just kind of like, okay, I'm here, like I'm standing here and you're not going to beat me. They've got like very consistent colors in their armor. It seems like a very cocky individual that Sir Aaron is coming across here. I can also point out that the flavor text we've already read for knighthood is not in the feats of war, but in the cause in which truth cannot defer. And that's Stephen Hawke's The True Knight. So it's just a portion of the quote that I read earlier in that insert piece. But yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah, this is really cool.
The castle pieces in the background are really nice.
Yeah. It's interesting because the castles are very medieval looking. And so is our Aaron.
Yes.
Sir Aaron Knight.
Yeah.
But again, the art is a much more modern sort of style than what you would expect to see it in.
Sure.
And I really like that for this because his opponent has such clean, rounded lines. His armor definitely has more of an Asian style feel to it.
Okay.
And then it looks like he's even got horns on the helmet.
Like curved ram style horns?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either like he might be a dragon and those are his actual horns. I don't know.
Okay.
Or it might just be the stylistic choice of the helmet of the armor, but Yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah,
I
it's
find
really cool.
that fascinating. Yeah, so it almost really lends itself to a thought of like Sir Aaron is here on the home front, basically, fighting off this invader.
Okay.
Because the style of what he is wearing is so drastically
So different, sure.
from the style of the buildings behind him.
Okay. Interesting. I really want to move on to this next card. I'm very interested in it, in your thoughts on it as well, Amy, because this art seems sick to me.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like almost surrealist style, but it's like, it reminds me more of like collage art.
Okay.
Like they cut pieces of paper
Sure.
and glued them together
Okay. Sure.
to make a picture.
It's gorgeous. I love this art so much.
Yeah, it's great.
It's just, yeah, it's incredible. It's called Tempered is the name of this card, by the way, if you can't see that. It's a fast action, and it allows you at the end of the moment to regain some of your spent action points, which is really cool. And by some, I mean one, but still, that's actually the first mechanic of that I recall seeing. Maybe it's in one of the other decks and I don't recall, but that's really awesome. I like again, talking about like the banner, right? You just seeing the ribbon here coming off of the lance. And that is very much a focus of this art in this one. So that's really, really cool to see. And then the flavor text, again, is another portion of that quote from earlier. He ought himself for to make sure and strong, justice to keep mixed with mercy among. From Stephen Hawke's The True Knight.
Yeah, so in this picture, yet again, we're seeing the banner, we're seeing the cape, and those kind of seemingly become the wings.
Interesting. Okay.
From what we've seen.
Okay.
I could just be like reading into that a little
Maybe.
bit.
I mean, but hey, that's
but
cool.
I kind of feel like the banner and the cape sort of take on the shape of the wings and then become the wings.
Okay.
Based on that one picture that we saw, it was 2 cards ago, I think, where you almost couldn't tell which it was.
Yes, the block where he was holding the lance to the side like that. Yeah.
So the lance in this picture is, again, pretty, I would say, an earlier iteration. It's got like little spikes coming off of it, but it's definitely like an earlier version of it. I love how the sun looks here.
Yeah, it's so cool. Just that whole background is amazing.
Yeah,
Up at the top there.
They put it like in front of the mountain, which is odd. But it creates such a mood.
Yeah,
that is
it's gorgeous.
That I feel like if they had done it more correctly, it wouldn't create that mood.
Sure.
It's very cool.
Yeah.
It has a surrealist sort of feel to it.
I'll agree with that. Yeah, it's gorgeous. This is another singleton in the deck. Like I said, some of the other ones in the beginning were not. Here's moving on to another singleton, and this one is also sick.
Wow.
This one is called Aaron's Folly, which again is very cool. Aaron facing the dragon, just incredible.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. It's got a real sort of ancient watercolor type of feel to it. But the lines are very straight, very almost like a cave painting.
Sure.
You know, sort of very flat and one-dimensional. But there's still a lot of variation in color and shading that exists. Even though it's got that one dimension to it, it's still really easy to see where one thing ends and another thing begins, see what is supposed to be giving off light, and what is in shadow. So it's really cool how they've kind of captured both that flatness and the lights and darks.
I'll also say, to jump off of what you were talking about in a previous art, I cannot tell in this art if that thing coming out of his back is his cape that's just looks like a wing, or if it's an actual wing. Super well done, and not something that I keyed in on prior to now, but now that you've mentioned it from a prior art, it's like the cape truly is standing in for wings, or genuinely it is his wings, and it's just so hard to tell because they are so similar to one another. Yeah. Very, very cool. I like that a lot.
And again, this is another art that I really like, sort of marrying sort of an Asian style and a European style at the same time.
Right.
Because the dragon and even the way that this is painted looks a lot like ancient Chinese art.
Okay.
But at the same time, that flatness that I talked about really mirrors actual medieval art. If you look up what medieval art looks like before the Renaissance, it really had that one dimension to it.
Okay.
And it had a lot of those straight lines. You know, there wasn't a curvature to anything.
Okay.
Especially not with rendering. So yeah, I like this a lot. It's marrying the two, the sort of Chinese dragon and the European dragon, and how they're kind of fighting each other, but also coexisting beautifully together.
Sure. I also appreciate the things in the forefront, right? If you look down here, it's like, oh, there's some mountains on the ground there, but no, because there's some up at the top as well, and it just looks like they are inside of a maw. Right? Yeah. They're inside of a mouth, or our perspective is from the inside of a mouth and we're looking at it. It's just really cool the way that that's done, because at a quick glance, like I said, these just look like mountains, right? Like a mountain range over at the bottom. And instead you look and you realize that it's mirrored on the top. And so, you know, it just looks like it could be the top and bottom teeth of a closing mouth.
Or almost like mountains that have like a hole carved out in the center where this dragon is sitting.
Sure.
You know,
like it's its cave and its lair or whatever.
Yeah.
Really, really awesome.
So cool.
Again, a continuation of the quotation from the beginning. And no quarrel a knight ought to take, but for a truth or for the common's sake. Again, Stephen Hawke's The True Knight. Really, really cool. And that's another singleton there.
The way they made that dragon look in the face is confusing to me. I don't know which style that's conveying. I think that's what makes me feel a little bit more like it's almost like a cave painting.
Okay. All right.
Like this area of what, like the snout, I guess you would call it.
Sure.
Feels the most to me like literally prehistoric.
Interesting. Okay. I like that.
And maybe that's a way of like helping us know how old this creature is.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Like,
sure.
It's a representation of his age.
Sure. And in fantasy lore, right? We don't know necessarily the lore of Varia in particular, but in other kind of fantasy projects, the older the dragon, the worse the dragon, usually.
Well, yeah, they have more experience at that point.
Correct. So again, like I said, that was another singleton. Now we're on to a double. And obviously I'm only showing you one because there's only need to show you one. This card is called Backstep.
Wow. Backstep, huh?
I guess so.
Okay.
I like it. I mean, again, well, let's as we're looking at the art, let's read the flavor text as well. Bathed in the light of a dragon's flame, Aaron's flamberge bloomed and bared its thorns. So Amy was right.
This is where the thorns come out of the sword. That's so cool.
I hope I'm saying that right, by the way. Flamberge. That's how it's written. That's how I'm reading it. I'm not familiar if that is an actual thing or if that is something that has been created for this game. And I will say that going to the end where we get to the items, I'm looking forward to seeing the lance/sword at the end there. So yeah,
I love the amount of action in this pose.
Oh, it's incredible.
How like far off of his leg this armor is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're seeing how much he's twisting and contorting to get away from this flame.
Right, it's backstep. It almost looks like not a back step, but like he's falling backwards almost. Yeah. And he's like in mid-fall.
Blown back by the force of it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did an amazing job.
Yeah. My question is, and hopefully we'll find this out, but my question is, because it says, bathed in the light of a dragon's flame, Aaron's flamberge bloomed and bared its thorns. My question is, was that always a feature of it, or is it because of the fact that it came into contact with dragon fire?
I think they're making it seem like it's because it's coming in contact with dragon fire.
Right. But we'll find out, I guess. But yeah, that's really cool.
Doesn't look like he has the horns in this one either.
Right, on the helmet. Yeah. Good point.
As well as having a cape instead of wings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is it's during that fight with the dragon, right?
Yeah,
so
and
really cool.
This seems to be the first step.
Backstep. Nice.
the first step in the transformation.
Sure, yeah. With the flamberge. That's really, really cool. I guess going along that, we have iron thorns. So again, showing the weapon. He's wearing a cape. This is a singleton card. And you get an Iron Thorns token from this as well. A new quotation. It says, "Remember, my son, when using a heavy weapon, an upward swing is a safe and strong opener." From Charon, the Morning Rose. Mourning as in mourning the passing of someone, not when the sun rises in the morning. Yeah.
Okay. Rose. Okay, so maybe it's not a lotus on his...
Oh, okay.
It's a rose?
Sure. And now you can kind of see it again, right? Because it's...
Yeah.
His chest piece is there.
Doesn't really look very rose-like to me. But...
Very rosy, if you will.
Yeah. But that's okay. And that's interesting information.
Yeah.
I don't know very much about weapons, specifically.
Yeah, me neither.
So that's... a good piece of information, I guess.
Right, and I like the fact that, we saw in the beginning, right, those were physical attack strength in, like, the first two cards. Mm-hmm. This is a physical attack tactics. So you can tell it's a lot more disciplined, as opposed to, like, use your strength, use your brute force to hit your opponent. This is a tactical use of thorns, right? Because thorns you're not going to use those to, like, deal lethal damage to somebody, but you'll do it to, like, hurt them enough where they'll like be taken aback, right? They'll like step away from you or something to that effect. So this is really cool. I like that. Okay. Like I said, that is another singleton.
I just want to look at the art for a second there.
Sure. And I'll pull up the next one while you're doing that.
Beautiful use of light behind the armor here.
Yes.
Really, really beautiful.
Yeah, really cool.
Make it stand out like that.
Mm-hmm.
He's definitely got the horns in this one.
Oh, okay.
But not the wings yet.
Right, because it's still a cape, yeah. Although the cape does look split in twain, but it does look like
I think we're
cape
seeing
still.
The banner as well.
Oh, I gotcha. From the back of the lance. Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
So this is the lance. Here's where it's attached to the banner.
Yeah.
And then this is more banner, and then this is more the cape.
Okay. Sure.
So it seems as though they're on their way to becoming wings.
Sure.
In this picture.
Yeah, which is so cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Okay. On to another singleton. Speaking of rose, how about an iron rose?
Oh.
So this is another physical attack strength, and you can tell based on the art that it's a physical attack strength.
Yeah.
Card is brutal.
What's black and white and red all over?
Okay, so this card is only flavor text in the text box. So give me a moment to get in close. I want to make sure I'll have Amy check the the camera and make sure it's not glary for all of you to look at. But leverage and balance are the keys to wielding a large sword or spear. Allow one hand to guide it and serve as a fulcrum. That's it. Now, position your other hand back on the handle and pull while pushing forward with your other hand. Almost. Pick yourself up and try again. Success is earned, my son, not given or inherited. And again, that's attributed to Charon, the Morning Rose.
Okay. So this seems like Aaron's father.
I assumed mother, but...
Oh, okay. Either way.
Yeah, I assumed mother, but yeah, sure. Parent.
So he is a rose, and his parents are roses, right? And so, basically what they're doing is saying, look, like, you don't become a knight or become a good knight by inheritance. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to do the work. Right. And have the skills and practice.
Well, and this person is skilled, clearly, because they're skilled in the use of these weapons and the tactics that would be required to use these weapons. Really, really cool.
Yeah, I love this art too. Yeah. It's got almost like a cartoony feel to
the victim here,
assailant here, or whatever you would call him.
Sure.
Yeah, I love that, actually. It's got two different styles. And then this has so much motion.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It's like a blur. So you've got his torso, like his arms and head, and his weapon that are still. And then you've got everything around him with movement. And then you've got this sort of... exaggerated person that he's killing.
Right, almost as if he just got hit and it's in slow motion, so the body is like weirdly contorted in ways that you wouldn't expect. But if you've seen like slow-mo video of someone getting punched or kicked or whatever,
where your cheeks kind of like move with the wind and stuff. Yeah. So maybe that's why it looks so cartoony to you, is because it's like a captured moment of that attack, you know? And so the victim here looks very unnatural, but it's because a body would look pretty unnatural if you hit it like crazy with a lance like that or a large weapon like that. And I love how he's like spitting blood.
Yeah. Yeah, and so is his back. His back is also spitting blood. But yeah, that's really, really cool. Okay, so that's another single.
And I love this sort of like smoke plume that's sort of following the sword.
Sure. Sure, like it's cut through the air and the air is like following it along kind of a thing.
Yeah. Or maybe it's like some sort of an evil entity. It's like coming to possess the sword.
Sure. Well, or if you look at this art back here, right, if there is like magma associated with that armor, maybe it's like black smoke, you know, coming off of it, like like black smoke like that, or soot.
Like trails.
Sure.
Yeah. Cool.
So another singleton there. Now we move on to a double, which is this one, Wing Buffet.
Wow.
Awesome. Look at this art. It's so sick. Those wings are nuts.
They're huge. Huge.
And again, similar to other fantasy properties that you may be aware of, either in gaming or in media, Wing Buffet, you know, you use your powerful wings and kind of beat your wings, and it pushes people in front of you away from you.
This just says wing buffet.
It does not.
It's just a buffet of chicken wings.
That would be delicious. That sounds great.
It does.
I'm all about it. Let's have chicken wings tonight.
Okay.
Anyway, this is... like I said, in other fantasy properties, you beat your wings and you push people in front of you away. And this card says, at the beginning of the moment, force your target to disengage from you. So you are buffeting your wings and just pushing them away, which is really great tactics-wise. And sure enough, this is a physical block tactics. So it forces them away from you. They can't hit you as easily. Really, really nice. And also... there is flavor text on this one that says, "Get back. Don't you understand? I can't contain this beast any longer. Once I am consumed, your lives are forfeit."
Cool.
Badass. That's what that is.
Okay, so it seems like this is the sort of final iteration of this Dragon Knight. So this is Aaron that we're seeing here.
Pleading with people to go away because he's going to hurt them.
Yeah. And who he's looking at, which is from this perspective, us, the audience, I guess would be his men.
Oh, interesting.
You know, because this looks like typical armor sort of style going here.
Okay.
And so he's telling his men, like, you have to back off. You have to get away from me because you're going to die.
Right. Because I can't control this.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I love the, again, they captured that motion and lack of motion. So we see us, we're standing still. He's standing still, and his wings are creating so much wind.
Yeah, because they're so blurry in this art compared to everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got all of these projectiles that are just getting sucked in like a hurricane.
Yeah.
It's amazing, and then the reflections on the ground where like the puddles of water are. It's just it's striking.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous, and very imposing.
Yeah.
Very imposing.
Yeah.
And intimidating.
It definitely fulfills that requirement that it's trying to fulfill.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Super well done. I like this one a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a cool flavor for how a big, imposing, dragon-like figure would implement some type of a block, is to use its wings and kind of blow the enemies away. Okay. So like I said, that was a duo there. Now we are on to another singleton in Lear.
Wow.
Incredible. Look at that eye. So good. And then the detail in what I assume, again, is an enemy of his. But that is so good.
No, I think this is his men.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, sure.
Remember we were talking about his parents teaching him things?
Sure.
So this is his mom or his dad or his, one of his family members or one of just his men.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody,
a fellow knight.
Right, somebody who's not necessarily an enemy. Okay. Yeah, and just, again, it's Lear, right? So, sure, we've been playing Pokemon on one of our other channels, right? Lear lowers your defense in Pokemon. And if you look at the dude's face reflected in this eye, it looks like his defenses are a little lowered because he's a little bit concerned about the fact that he's being glared at by this super scary and intimidating eye.
I think he is. I mean, I think if it is what we think it is, that maybe he's super scared of the fact that Sir Aaron has become this.
Sure. If he knew who Aaron was before, absolutely. Yeah, and this is a physical fear card. So very, 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 very good. I like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love in this art, if you can bring it a little bit closer, the texture and the coloration through here of the skin
and the scales almost. Sure.
It's very, very reptilian. They did an amazing job with it.
Yeah.
The eye looks incredible. Yeah,
it's awesome. Really, really cool. God, I could look at that for a long time, so I'm gonna go ahead and move on because I have to. That was a single. Now we're on to another double in Jawbreaker.
Okay.
Ooh.
Yes.
Ooh. This is cool. Look at this art.
Wow. Here's another one of those arts that looks comic book-ish.
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
It was drawn with like a pen and ink and then colored in.
It takes a bit to tell what's exactly going on. Like, you really have to like look at it and try to discern, like, oh, that's a face up here pointed towards the sky, and this is the helmet, and this is a fist coming right at you. That's really awesome.
Or almost like it's done with like watercolor colored pencils.
Okay.
And then they sort of pen outlines and shadows over it.
Okay.
Something like that. it's so cool. We saw a bunch of these in the, or we saw a small number of these really, in a few of the other decks. And
of this art style, yeah.
They're really quite gorgeous and provide a lot of detail that, other forms of art just can't do.
Yeah. Also, I'll point out the flavor text on this one. Insult, meat injury.
Yeah.
So funny. Really, really nice. Yeah, this art's sick, man.
Yeah.
Like I said, it took me a minute to figure out exactly what was going on at first, but now that I know it and can keep looking at it, it's awesome.
Reflections of light on the fist.
Yeah.
As it's coming closer to us after it hit him in the face.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so cool.
And again, that dude's spitting blood like you like.
Yeah. and it's like, it's not even phasing him. He doesn't even care. So this is Sir Aaron here.
Yeah.
His head.
Yep.
And he is unaffected by the fact that he just punched this guy in the face.
Yeah.
And he just keeps on walking, basically.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Really awesome. I like it a lot. Very, very good. And that's another physical attack strength card. We move on to another singleton. Oh my god, these cards coming up are nuts. Okay. We have Chained Edge.
Wow.
Is next. Very cool. Okay. So there is more weaponry than just the lance.
Wow.
Very nice. It's a ranged attack, which is good. So this is, I guess, how they allow him to have ranged attacks is by having like a blade on a chain so that he can kind of throw the blade, have it hit, and then be able to pull it back out again and bring it back to himself.
Awesome.
That's really cool.
I mean, a lance arguably is a ranged attack as well.
It's ranged compared to like a sword or a long sword or something, but not compared to like a bow and arrow. Then it's not much. This at least kind of is halfway between the two, I would say.
Okay.
Right? It's longer than a lance, but shorter than, the capacity that a bow and arrow would have.
Yeah.
Really, really cool though. I like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's nice looking. There's like some dragon-like protrusions out of the armor here, right? Like you can see the spikes coming out and even the fingertips, right at the front of the armor. But it still looks like it's a cape, although it's a little bit more tattered and leathery looking than fabricy.
And the horns do exist here.
Yeah.
They're a little difficult to see.
Yeah.
But they made them browner than the cape.
Yes.
So that
they would stand out
better.
Sure. Really awesome.
Again, the use of light in that one is ridiculous.
Yeah, the fire is so good.
I love the reflection on this knife.
Sure.
It's just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I am excited to talk about this one. Holy crap. Look at this art.
Oh, boy.
Are you kidding me? Look at this. Look at that.
Wow. Holy shit. I don't even know that I have anything to say about this one.
It's so good. It's so cool looking. Just bask in that for a minute. It's Magical Block Air Fire. The card is called Nightpire Veil, by the way. Absolutely incredible. I mean, just amazing.
Oh, see, this one shows the banner as being separate from the wings.
Okay. God, those wings look great in this one, too.
So cool.
Not see-through this time, though.
Right.
Even though
they have more of a feathery look to them.
Right. And there is a muted light source, and it's muted because of all the fire and the Nightpire veil that there is here. Yeah. So it's the light is somewhat muted by that. So maybe that's why it's not as emphasized as coming through the wings, but my God, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's really very cool. But yeah, these wings have more of a feathery texture than a leathery texture to them. Mm-hmm. But it works for it. I don't think it takes away because the other pictures have leatherier wings.
Right.
Because this picture is just insane.
It's so good.
I don't think there's a way to complain about this art.
It's so good.
I really don't think there is. I love the blurriness versus the sharpness yet again, showing where things are located in terms of background, foreground, middle ground.
Yeah.
And the intensity of things as well. You know, those flames are 100% sharp, visible.
Well, and you can see in the forefront, as you were talking about on the left here, you can see the lance having undergone the full transformation, as has Sir Aaron. Just so sick. You get to see the magma coming up through in his leg area. Incredible. This is absolutely gorgeous.
And then the things that they made blurry in this picture were things like the moon in the background, which is perfect because it gives this nice warm light around it. And then the smoke. That's creating this perfect circle, essentially.
Yeah, which is incredible as well. I love that.
And that's exactly what you want smoke to look like. It looks like real smoke.
Yeah, it's so good.
Because it has that texture that is so different from the texture of all of this.
Yeah. And something that we haven't done, and perhaps it's a disservice, but to be honest, I would just encourage everybody to, I would say just get these for yourself and look at this art for yourself up close and personal. We haven't named the artists, but that's because we'd be, doing it over and over and over and over again with every single one of them. They're just incredible. But all these artists have done an absolutely incredible job. As you can probably attest to, you're watching this video, you can see the art. And like I said, or like Amy mentioned earlier, actually, I didn't say anything about it, but I'm going to say it now, that seeing it in person is probably different than seeing it on the camera. Although I will say, shout outs to our camera and shout outs to our lighting setup, because it's showing these things off, and I hope it's doing justice, because this art is nuts in person. Holy crap!
But
and also
person, it's a whole nother level.
Right. Well, and I would point out as well the detail work on this art that is definitely not going to come across on camera. Like, I can try, but like the detail work on the armor and the spikes and the fire dripping and the embers and the what could probably be blood, like the detail work on this card in particular, kind of compared to all the other ones, is nuts. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, this
really
is one
well
of those
done.
Pieces that probably when it was made significantly larger and then shrunken down. Because I don't know how you get this much detail in such a small space.
Yeah, you wouldn't. Yeah, that's fair. That's absolutely fair.
A lot of the other pictures have a feel to them where even if they were done much bigger and then shrunken down to card size, which is, I suppose what's typical, they wouldn't necessarily have to be. The artist would be able to make the art.
Right.
Even if it was small.
Yeah.
Perhaps not quite this small, but still small. This, I feel like, had to be gigantic. Because I don't know how you get such intricate detail.
It's gorgeous.
Otherwise.
Gorgeous.
I just don't know.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Very, very well done. We are not done yet, though. Next, we have a duo of cards, Dragon Flame.
Wow.
So not only was he transformed into a dragon by way of getting wings and spikes everywhere, but it seems that Sir Aaron can also breathe fire.
Yeah, this one's cool because you're really seeing almost like witch-like hands. His hands look very...
Oh, okay.
Like elongated fingers that are sort of pointed.
Sure.
And, knuckly,
Okay. I like that. God, it looks awesome. Yeah, and I have to say, the brightness and yet the variance in color of the fire looks really good. And the fact that you can have that and still have a character between you, the viewer, and the fire itself, and still have discernible details of that character, really, really well done. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I would almost say, realistically looking at this, that the character in our foreground is actually not lit properly.
Okay.
Like they purposefully left it less in shadow so that you could see it better
Okay.
than I feel like it would be in real life.
Because of how bright the backlight is and how non-existent the front light is?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think these shadows would be more impactful, and you wouldn't be able to make out the details in this man quite as well.
Okay.
It seems there's a shadow, but that shadow would actually be darker than it is.
Okay.
But yeah, I actually, like you, love that they did that. It's not quite as saturated, but that really helps you see the character, see his emotion, and care about him.
Okay.
Even though that's happening to him, you know?
It's super brutal.
And I also love, like, the bright yellows and oranges of the art in this card against the blue-purple card frame.
Oh, God,
I just think that that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It really stands out.
The magical card frame is amazing. I love it. I love the ombre from the blue into the purple. So good. Yeah, I really like this a lot. Well, it's funny. I'm noticing what's coming up next. We go from Dragon Flame into Dragon Fire.
Ooh. Very nice.
Right?
Yeah.
Also, notably, both of these fire-based cards, Dragon Flame and Dragon Fire, it says at the end of the moment, you deal 1d4 damage to everyone engaged with you, which is really cool. So it makes sense, that it's Dragon Flame, Dragon Fire. They're like so similar, and the reason is because they do the exact same thing. So I like that a lot.
They put a ring on it.
Okay.
Engaged with you.
Yeah, exactly.
This is another great example of how they made some things very clear and other things very blurry.
Sure.
To create a nice effect. And they really execute that nicely when they do that.
Well, and I can pretty confidently say I've seen this art before, but with the Dragon Knight replaced with a dragon. You know what I mean? Like, like I've just seen this imagery before of like, you're lower down, you're looking up, a massive dragon is flying overhead and just breathing fire on the populace or whatever underneath it, and it's a giant dragon and it's super imposing. They literally took that trope-y type image, right, and replaced it with a knight that has turned into a dragon.
Yeah.
Incredible. I like that a lot, that they're able to take something that is common and subvert it like that. Really cool.
Yeah. I actually also really love what they did with the sky in this.
Okay.
They really made it look, like it's painted on the ceiling of a cathedral, right?
Okay.
And there's going to be cherubs coming out of it, even though what's in the forefront is a dragon deformed knight guy who's breathing fire all over everyone.
Yeah,
it's such a contrast in the best way.
So cool. So cool. Yeah, this is really awesome. So after Dragonfire,
and that sort of angle that
sorry.
they have the castle almost makes it hard to tell that that's what it is.
Sure.
You can tell because of the texture and the light hitting certain corners of the singular stones of the wall of the castle.
Right.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it's all about, that's why I was saying, it's all about perspective. You are looking at this as if you are one of the people about to get burned by this dragon knight burning,
It makes him
breathing
look
fire.
huge.
Yeah.
Because he's on top of the castle. And
Yeah.
it's this tiny little thing. And he's standing on it.
Well, and don't forget, we talked about that with the box art as well, that he looks huge in comparison to all the others because of the fact that the Varia logo is so small and there's no background space at all, whereas all the other characters, there's both of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really a sense of scope of how big Sir Aaron gets once fully corrupted.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Very cool.
So after the fire-based cards, we have a one-off. This card's insane.
Gorgeous. Wow.
Animus of Destruction. And you can really see the emphasis of the rose on his chest plate there. Plus, look at his mouth. I mean, you were talking about like the helmet looking like it's growing teeth or whatever. There's your teeth right there.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
I'm not even sure what I'm seeing here.
I think it's the head is tilted back, the mouth is open. There's like fire or blood or magma spewing out of the open mouth as he is being mutated. In fact, hold on, let's read the flavor text. Deep within Aaron's heart, hatred had taken root. Wow. So yeah, there you go. He's being transformed, and you're seeing what that is doing to him personally. Also, I'd like to note in the top left-hand corner where the action point cost of the card is usually the thing that is descending, here it's 2 red blood droplets, which to me means this does not cost you action points, it costs you health points. Which is very flavorful and appropriate, and I appreciate that. That's really cool. It is a magical abyssal draconic ability, which is amazing.
It's abyssal. I freaking knew it.
It's so badass. It's so badass. I love it. I just love it. I love that you were pointing out the rose on his chest piece, and this is so
like a rose though.
But this is like so emphasizing it, you know? Really, really cool. So this is his eye over
magma.
here. Sure.
And I was looking at this, thinking this was his mouth, but that's his arm.
Correct.
So this is his mouth here.
Correct.
Okay.
This is the bottom jaw, whereas this is like the chin, right? This is the upper jaw, and this is the eye kind of trailing off magic here as well.
Yeah. Gross.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Really
is what
cool.
it is. Really, really awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. And like I said, that's a one-off. Then we have...
The colors in that are insane,
too. Yeah, absolutely incredible. Here is Aura of Devastation, another one-off.
I don't love this one as much.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it's cool. Because again, it's the pretty armor, right, that we saw from early Sir Aaron. And then you see the fire corruption kind of spread. It looks like it's actively spreading throughout the armor and throughout what is his, actual body there. So I think that's pretty cool. But of course, please.
I don't know. I feel like it's blander than the other ones that we've seen.
Some of the other ones are insanely epic. I don't know that they could, turn it up to 11 for all of them. Like it's okay to have a 5 or a 7 every once in a while.
Fair enough. But this is another one where I feel like the way that they made the flames look, the colors are not as saturated as the colors of the armor or the background behind it.
Sure. I would say for the armor, not necessarily for the background, but for the armor, maybe it's because, maybe it's not, but maybe it's because they wanted to show you the purity of the armor combined with the corruption of the flames. So they wanted you to, similar to what we were talking about with that victim earlier, where you were saying that you probably would not have been able to see that guy as much, and you just brought up the point a moment ago of the fact that if you didn't see him in that much detail, you wouldn't see what pain he was in and what damage the attack was doing, etc.
You wouldn't care about the fact that he's being killed as much.
Right. And so maybe that's what's happening here is they're showing you the purity and the fact that the armor is like somewhat untouched and beautiful. And then you look at it contrasted with other images that we've seen like this one, and it's just so corrupted and messed up, and it just shows you what this aura of devastation could do to that armor. Yeah. I also now we've seen the card that has, previous to this, we saw the card that had the 2 blood droplets in the cost. Now we're seeing an action point and a blood droplet for the cost. Very, very cool. And again, very flavorful if this is the corruption and it's damaging you. Like the Abyssal one that we just saw, it makes sense that it's 2 damage and no action points. And this is an action point and some damage because you're still using your aura. And this is magical draconic fire as opposed to Abyssal. Really, really cool. I like this a lot. Then we move on to something that we mentioned that we would likely see, and that is the art from the back of the box.
Yeah.
Inner Dragon. It's incredible. Look at that.
Amazing. I love it.
So, so, so cool. Again, this one costs 1 blood, right? So 1 damage, it seems, to you. But really, really cool. Magical, draconic. Like, this is... His inner dragon has been fully unleashed. That's what this reads as to me. And I love the fact that it's so minimalist in the text box, right?
Yes.
Short, sweet. There's not a ton of symbology and text and like rules text and reminder text. It's just 2 lines exactly telling you what it is. I love it.
Yeah, it's very cool. I love this art so much.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The blending that they did of colors is so it's weird. It feels very warm and homey. Even though it like that's the background and then what is on that background is such a contrast to that.
Yeah.
Yet again, they really did an amazing job of kind of contrasting this beautiful, comfortable, almost ethereal background with this stark abyssal dragon right up against it.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. I'll also say, compare this to the image we saw earlier where we were commenting on how it couldn't, you were surmising that it was likely done on a larger scale because of the degree of detail with the armor. Whereas here, right, even if I were to look super closely, maybe I'd see some detail. But for art like this, you could get away with not doing a bunch of detail work on the armor because you don't have to. That's not the focus of this particular piece of art. So you can get away with it not being as detailed in that regard.
Sometimes simple is better.
Yeah.
And this simple is better.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Yeah, this is so cool. And again, this is a one-off. God, look at this next one coming up, though, too. We're going to get there. The inner dragon is done. Now it's time to unleash that dragon.
Whoa.
Yeah. Insane.
The number of spines at this point on that thing.
On the wings and stuff, too.
Insane.
Yeah, it's crazy. Really, really awesome. So again, I guess this is the moment, and we'll read the flavor text in a second, but before I do, I'll say this seems like the moment that Sir Aaron feared, where he was like, get away from me, right? Like, I'm not going to be able to stop this thing. So it seems like now is the moment where he has fully given himself over or has lost himself, either way. And so sure enough, the flavor text says, in a moment, death is upon them. Borne by scale-covered wings and burning brighter than the sun, all hope is lost.
Nice.
Unbelievable. I love that so much.
Yeah.
Talk about gorgeous backgrounds, too.
Yeah, the intensity of the contrast between this sort of seafoam green, bright light background against the black and purple and brown.
Yeah.
Just
gorgeous.
Wow.
Gorgeous.
Just wow. And it really doesn't capture on camera quite the way it does in real life.
Oh, I'm sure. I will say it looks very pretty on camera too, but
yeah, it looks a lot more yellow, at least from my angle.
Okay.
But, there's really a lot of almost like a blue iris.
Oh yeah. I agree.
In there. It's very cool.
Yeah, it's really, really awesome. I'll also say, this very much seems like the culmination, both in card form and in the flavor and the abilities of the card. Like, you're gaining 5 Dragonborn. I don't even know what that is. But I'm sure, when we get to the tokens and stuff, that it'll show us. Plus, this costs 3 action points and 2 blood, or health points,
Wow.
which is a lot. Like, it seems like this is the card, right? And it's 1, so yeah, this says to me, like, this is your ultimate card in the Dragon Knight deck. Like, you get to this point, and this is the one that you want to get right. Like, you want to be able to play it and do well with it. So, really, really awesome. Because, speaking of which, then we move on from the basic cards into the items. And so we have Great Lance Flameburge, or Flamberge.
Whoa.
It's gorgeous.
It's so beautiful.
Gorgeous. And it truly shows, right, you have, I mean, knights and just warriors in that caliber. It shows them the reverence that they have for their weapons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's the thing that keeps them safe. I mean, we saw, anytime we saw those cards that talked about the weapon, we saw the parent of Sir Aaron telling him, like, this is how you use it. These are some tactics. Like, you learn to use this weapon as an extension of yourself to keep yourself safe. And when you're not using it, this makes it, like, it has its own place with possibly rose petals, as we were talking about before, right? And some silks near where the handle is. And it's like it has its own bed and or pedestal to lay upon in reverence.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really, really cool.
I love that I love the color choices here that they've used. The reds and the oranges against the blues and the greens. Look gorgeous, of course, and really stand out. On top of the fact that, you know, they really could have made this art just a picture of the lance, right?
Yeah, like on like not a background, just kind of like hovering in the air or whatever to show it off.
But they gave it such style and, like you said, such reverence and such like, they really put thought and care into this art for this piece. And I think it's great. I think it's really great. And I think, like, it shows it off nicely without making it look intense. Every other picture we've seen of it, you see it in battle, right? So this goes back to the reverence that you talked about, where now it's just this beautiful tool.
Yeah.
As opposed to a weapon of war.
Sure. And in fact, let's talk about the flavor that's dripping from this card. Because, again, I don't know, but I have a suspicion, and I'm looking forward to it. It says, so the flavor text says, awarded to a knight by the King of Thorns, this wicked weapon thirsts for draconic blood. Now, the ability on this card in the text box says, if your target is a dragon or a draconic action was performed this turn, flip Great Lance Flameburge.
Oh.
So let's see if there's a card on the back, because I truly haven't looked at this yet. Yeah, there sure as hell is.
Whoa.
Look at that now. So I love it. I didn't know. I was genuinely hoping this was going to be the case. Look at the flip. Literally, the lance is flipped in its direction that it's facing in the art.
Yeah.
And look at the difference. It's now laying on the ground. It's got blood around it. There's magic near it. There's
a puddle of blood that it's laying in.
And there's skulls everywhere, or just like pieces of dead bodies. This is not laid with reverence. This feels like, right, it is tossed aside as after having been utilized in a vicious series of attacks or battles or whatever. This is the perfect contrast to the other side.
Yeah, so cool.
Yes.
So
absolutely
cool.
incredible.
So it seems like the roses very much were all about fighting dragons. And so this lance was specifically designed by the roses because the King of Thorns.
It was gifted by the King of Thorns. Yeah.
Which makes sense for roses.
Sure, absolutely.
And then, specifically for using against dragons.
Yeah.
And then it turned out to to be the weapon of someone who then turned out to be a dragon.
Well, who was corrupted and turned into
a dragon.
Yeah.
So it's very, very cool, this story beat.
Yeah.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. Well, and notice the new name. It's called Dragon's Bane now. And it's a magical attack, vampiric.
Oh.
Because it said, the other side said that it craved dragon's blood, right? Or the blood of a dragon. So the new flavor text on this side says, possessing an unquenchable thirst for life is the key to keeping death from kicking down your door. And that's a quote attributed to the King of Thorns.
Wow.
This is incredible.
The duality of everything is so amazing.
Absolutely perfect. I love that a lot. Really, really good. I also want to point out, before we move on to the next item, just in general, one thing I've noticed about this deck so far, because with past decks, by the time we've gotten here, we'll go to like the tokens and stuff at the back, as well as like there's one more item at least, but we'll get to the tokens in the back, and that's going to be the end of the deck. In every other deck that I can recall, there were the deck-specific or class-specific cards, which is what we've seen here, but then there were generic cards as well. This deck did not have any generic cards.
No.
And I personally appreciate that, to be honest. Like, I don't mind that they existed in the other ones, but now that I'm seeing it this way, I want that forever.
Yeah.
Like, I want all of these cards in all of these decks to just be totally class specific. Now, I completely understand that in terms of like a game creation standpoint, that's a lot more work.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't blame anyone. I'm not saying it's bad that the other decks aren't like this. I guess what I'm saying is I'm glad that they did that here with their new added class deck. That maybe that's something that, and I don't have any inside information here. Maybe this is something that they'll be doing with their Kickstarter decks as well, now that they are starting with those and starting to create those because they, like we said, had a successful Kickstarter. This is what I prefer personally, but at the same time, if we open those Kickstarter decks and there are generic cards in there that can go in any deck and work like that, I'm not going to be upset. I'm not going to be like, oh crap, this sucks now. Like, still be totally happy. I just really like in this one that there were generic or not generic ones. They were all class specific.
Yeah, that's really cool. I don't know if it makes sense to want that all the time.
Sure.
Because you can't manufacture variants, right? You don't want the same block in every deck to be slightly changed to match the deck that it's specific to, even though it's the exact same freaking card.
Sure, because sometimes a backflip is just a backflip. Like, everybody could just do a backflip, and it doesn't have to be a monk backflip versus a samurai backflip versus a pirate backflip. I got you.
Or an
I got
assassin.
you. Sure. Yeah, I totally understand that. Also, I want to point out this weapon item, as Dragon's Bane, is known as a sword spear.
Oh.
And on this side, it's also a sword spear. Interesting. Okay. Very, very cool.
Yeah. These arts are incredible.
Yeah.
I love the variants. Speaking of variants, I love the variants in the color palettes used for the art in this specific Dragon Knight deck.
Okay.
I feel like the other decks that we reviewed had a lot more... They each had their own sort of color palette.
Right, they like synchronized. Sure.
They really stuck to those color palettes that were specific to the classes. And this one has a lot more to it.
Okay.
It's got more depth and realism that way, on top of just being more gorgeous that way.
Okay. Yeah, I also like the fact that, I mean, you get to use this Great Lance. It flips at the end of the moment, so then it goes back to your item area, flipped as Dragon's Bane, and then once you use Dragon's Bane, at the end of the moment, it flips back into the Great Lance again.
Yeah.
Really, really cool that it kind of goes back and forth, and that no matter which side you're using, it has the same action point cost.
Okay.
So there's no penalty or benefit depending. I mean, the different abilities are the benefits or detriments, but you know, it's just so cool that you can like manipulate it in that way where you're like, okay, well, I want to use the one side now, but I'm going to want to use the other side later, so let's flip it over, you know? Yeah. Really, really cool. I like that.
This particular art is interesting to me because it like the lighting and the colors that were used, it almost looks like a rave. It's a very deadly rave.
I was going to say that's a rave I do not want to be a part of.
There's like glow sticks in the mouths of these skulls.
Very nice. Yeah, so as I mentioned, there is another item. Let's see. Whoops, I'll just drop that one on the table. That's cool. Okay, there was one other item. It is the Fractured Plate Armor. There is a lot of text on this card. Okay, so it is a physical block. So this is an item-based block, which I'm not used to seeing. I mean, maybe the shield on the 6th blade, right? But that is really, really cool. Okay, and it's got durability counters. This is interesting to me. I like that a lot. Yeah, and just to see, like, again, it's called Fractured Plate Armor.
Does it give you the depreciation for your taxes?
Definitely it does that for the. But I like that, like, the symbol in the center is colored. The rose symbol, or what we're surmising is the rose symbol, is colored red. At first, I thought it was just a blood stain because it's armor, right? So there's just, you know, could be a blood stain from one of the enemies on the front of it. But yeah, no, I really appreciate the fact that, yeah, this armor looks really cool. There's no flavor text on this one, which is totally fine. There was plenty of it on the Dragon's Bane. Yeah. And
sorry.
No, all I was going to say is, and this has a lot of rules text, and so, you know, it needs to have that. So no room for flavor text, which I get.
Yeah, I don't have a lot to say about the art of this one. Pretty basic, you know. There's not much going on. It's armor.
Yeah.
Can't really tell what this is in the background here.
I thought it was that other guy that he was facing in that one art. I could be wrong, but like it looks slightly red, right? So I thought it was that guy. I thought it was that like cocky dude that we were talking about earlier. That's what it stood out to as for me, but I could be very wrong.
No,
there.
I think it's Sir Aaron.
You think it's just Sir Aaron after having lost
that's him as this demon dragon.
Oh, and he's got the wings. I see it. I see the wings.
He has alleviated himself of the armor.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes more
That's what
sense.
I see.
Yeah, that makes much more sense.
But this is very like monochromatic, which is a pretty big contrast to what we've seen so far in this deck.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say this one is very much not as exciting as any of the other things that we've seen. Yeah.
Which makes sense because it's a suit of armor.
Sure.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Okay. I can understand that. Okay, so then after the Fractured Plate Armor, which does not have another side, I just wanted to double check, we have the tokens. So let me just double check here. Okay, so these are both the same, so I'll pass this one over. So the tokens here, we have Inner Dragon, which we saw.
Yeah, what an amazing art.
And then on the other side...
Like you can never be tired of looking at this art.
Yeah, it's really cool. Good. Really, really cool. And then on the other side, it's just Dragonfire because you're using tokens like these sit on the side regardless. So it doesn't matter which side you're using. And it's not like this gets shuffled in or anything. So yeah, this, actually, I like that. I like that especially with the lance that we just saw, that the game is able to take something that they know is not going in your deck, right? They know is not getting shuffled in and they can give it two sides. So the tokens are off on the side, they can have two sides. And the weapon, the item, can have two sides because it just sits in your item zone. And whichever side is up is the side that you can utilize, and then the card dictates when to flip it one way or another, whereas the tokens are just tokens, so you can utilize them however you need them, flipping them over as needed. So that's really, really cool. And again, nothing different here. We've already looked at these cards, so yeah, really nice art on these. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
The Dragonfire side, though, again, A lot less saturation in this art.
Yeah.
The darks, like that, it's like the contrast has been taken away.
Actually, and
So
notably,
the darks are not as dark as they would be, and the lights are not as bright as they would be.
and also I'll note, I apologize. I said, oh, we've seen this art already. We have, but we saw the zoomed out version of this art. This is more focused because in the original art, we saw that dude getting burned at the other end of this fire.
Yeah.
Now we're not seeing that. It's focused more on the Sir Aaron part of the art. So that's really cool.
This is not the same iteration.
Are you sure?
Pretty sure, yeah.
Let's find out.
Because he still had the armor really, like, visible in that one. And this one...
Oh, this is drastically different. It's
The armor almost looks more like an exoskeleton.
drastic. Why did I think it was the same art? I was thinking it was the Dragon Flame art, not the Dragon Fire art. Yeah, I thought it was this.
Right.
That's Dragon Flame. I got very confused because this is Dragon Flame. And so I thought because it was like a similar pose, right? So I thought it was the same thing. It's actually this, which is definitely not the same art, Dragonfire. So it is different. I stand corrected.
Yeah, they both are called Dragonfire. But
It is. No, it is
I
because
don't
it's
see another similarity.
no, they're exactly the same. I mean, the text boxes are exactly the same.
Oh.
It's just you create a Dragonfire token in the next available moment, and so this is your token that you create when you play this. That's all. Yeah.
I thought you meant the art was the same.
No, again, that's why I thought it was. I was like, oh, it's the same card, so it's going to be the same art, right? But it definitely was not. I was very wrong there. So there are those tokens. Then we have more tokens over here in Vulnerable and Iron Thorns. This is a one-off token. So here is the Vulnerable side. That's awesome looking. He's leaned over. He looks injured. He's vulnerable. I think that's really cool. There's like a little bit of mist around him. He's like kind of holding his chest there with the red in the background of the rose symbol.
Yeah. Interesting technique that they chose to use for this art.
Okay.
This looks like a maybe acrylic with like a dry brush.
Okay.
The texture that's created over here and through here very much looks like dry brushing to me.
Okay.
And then there's like spots where you can tell there was more water almost.
Okay. Sure.
Very interesting. Very cool. It's definitely a very different style from every other art that we've seen in this deck.
Yeah.
And realistically speaking, probably every other art that we've seen in any of these decks.
Okay.
I can't think of... I mean, it's been a while since we saw those cards, but
Right.
I can't think of any other art in the other decks that was done in a similar style.
Okay. Interesting. And again, you're definitely much more the expert on that than I am. So I have
You'll understand this and the viewers won't.
Okay.
But you know what this reminds me of is the Magneto picture that you got
we have.
for me.
Sure. Okay, and that was done by a particular artist that we picked it up from that I picked it up from at New York Comic Con many years ago. So okay. So yeah, I mean it's just a particular style of art.
And like the shadows are almost more intense or almost more large than they would be, I feel like.
Well,
and the colors are not as vibrant.
Well, and interesting too that you mention it because this says on the what this card does or what this token means if you have it is actions targeting you this moment are treated as if they are unopposed. So you're getting hit. This is a physical weakness called vulnerable. So you are in danger, right? You're putting yourself in a negative position based on whatever card it was that gave you this vulnerable, that gave you that benefit prior to this. Now you're vulnerable following it. And so you're gaining a benefit that may be too good earlier.
Yeah.
And now you're paying the penalty later. Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so your opponent gets to basically exploit your vulnerability, exploit your weakness, and realize, oh, okay, that thing that they just did made them weaker. So now I'm going to step in and I'm going to make them pay for that earlier hit that probably did a lot to me, and I'm going to try to do a lot to them. And so the emotions that are evoked by this art are that of like desperation and sadness and etc. Because it's like, well, we did what we had to do, and now we're going to take our licks for it. Like, we're going to have to deal with whatever it is that our opponent is going to get across. So you have to hope that they don't have their Hail Mary in their deck, right? The Decapitate doesn't come from the Volcanic Warrior during this particular moment. So
yeah, the cool thing about this too, this sort of style of art and coloration, it's sort of similar to the one with the cartoon guy being slashed.
Oh, right, from behind where he's being hit by the lance, yeah.
It almost gives this feeling that it's raining.
Okay, sure.
So it's lit the way it would be lit if it was raining outside.
And I mentioned the, like, mistiness or whatever, yeah.
And that dry brush sort of texture that's created, and the spots where there's more water in the paint. Really sort of lend itself to that it's raining kind of a mood.
Sure.
Not to say that you see this and you say, okay, it's raining in this picture.
Gotcha.
But it evokes the mood that is created by seeing a picture in the rain.
Sure.
Does that make sense?
I think it does, yeah.
Not looking at a photograph in the rain, because that would just get destroyed. But you know what I'm saying. Like, that creates a different mood than the other things that we've seen.
Yeah. And then, is there another side? I don't know. Oh, yeah, of course. Silly me. Iron Thorns on the other side.
That's very similar to that other picture that we saw with the slash mark kind of going this direction.
It was going up because it was the upward strike or whatever that she was talking about.
And you could see the lance a lot better in that one.
Yeah, really cool. Oh, and there's flavor text on this one. Once the weapon is raised, its position and weight will enable an easily controlled downward stroke. And that's from Sharon the Morning Rose.
There you go.
So again, it's actually a perfect contrast to what she said, or what they said in the flavor text of the other card as well.
Okay.
So yeah, absolutely right.
Very nice.
Makes
and they
perfect
had it done
sense.
by the same artist.
Yeah.
And it looks very cohesive.
Perfect.
And well done.
Well, and that's a Varia staple too, where we've seen, we see one piece of art and later on we see another piece of art and we're like, oh, these are from the same like full piece.
Yeah.
That's not this case,
either
but
that or it's two like sister pieces,
correct,
if you will.
Yeah, like this one, exactly, absolutely. Okay, and then so that's all the tokens, which means we're left with one other card in the entire deck, and that is the Stacks card. And so there is Dragonborn and Fatigue. I'm gonna have to hold this one up and not leave it on the table here. So pardon if it's a little shaky. We have Dragonborn and Fatigue, so we actually see the Dragonborn thing here. Oh, interesting. That's why. So it says, before you perform an action, create an inner dragon token as a combo with it.
Nice.
So yeah, you get those inner dragon tokens that we saw earlier. There's also fatigue stacks, which is just a thing that exists in this game in general. We've learned that from in the past. And then on the other side, you have just the little card advertising the game again. So once again, don't forget guildhousegames.llc.com. You can check the links in the description as well. Or go back to the beginning of this video where we had all those other images and links and stuff for you. But that's it. That is the Dragon Knight deck.
Amazing.
I really liked it. I think that
Very well done.
Yeah, if this is an indication, I'll put this down so that we can move this a little bit closer since this is what we're talking about, right? If this is an indication of where these decks are going, right? Where the class decks are going forward, I'm looking forward to it. I'm excited because this is really, really cool in terms of adding more flavor, showing the different possibilities, right? In no way did I think, well, we saw the 7 class decks, we'll never see any variants from that, but it's still cool to see where it can be taken by the folks who are making this game in general. So I really like that.
No, it's very cool. I think the mechanics of this deck create a complexity that maybe I don't love in terms of thinking about the gameplay aspect of it.
Okay.
But it certainly creates a much more engaging story.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
A lore that is more fleshed out than what we saw in the other decks, and more interesting at the same time.
Sure.
The other ones had a bit of mysteriousness as they were a bit more vague.
Yeah.
But this is more interesting despite the fact that it's more specifically explained.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah, that we get like a full lore dump in the little insert that they gave here, so that you get like full context on what you're reading and what you're experiencing. And honestly, I would even argue we don't have a full explanation. We have a much larger explanation, but I would not say that this is full and extensive, because it did say that he slayed the dragon but didn't defeat it or whatever. Like, and so our feeling is that means that the dragon kind of corrupted him and took over his body that way, but we don't exactly know that as a fact. Like, that's a strong assumption.
You pretty much do.
Right, but in other words, like, I would still absolutely read a story about this and be fully immersed in it just as much as I would be about the warrior or the pirate or the assassin or the whatever.
Like I said, I feel that story would be more engaging.
Sure.
Than these other stories, because I think that there's a complexity and a level to it that surpasses these other decks.
Okay. So genuinely, I want to know anybody who, first of all, if you've gotten to this part in the video, congrats. This was a long one, but look, we wanted to talk about this. We wanted to gush about it. Like, it's really, really cool. We appreciated being sent this. So first of all, thank you so much to Guildhouse Games once again for entrusting us with this, with your new deck, and giving us the opportunity to review it, to check out your story and your art and etc., and to be allowing us to be critical of it as well as praise it as we see fit, right? And not requiring us to do anything in particular. We appreciated that. But yeah, this is great, and I want to know other people's opinions as well. If you want to pick one of these up for yourself, don't forget, check that link in the description down below. And you can go find any of these decks. Again, don't forget the playlist of all of our other reviews as well. This video will be tacked on at the end of that playlist too. So maybe you just found this way later on and it's just the end of the playlist. But this was filmed much later than the first 7, because this was a supplemental class deck that came out after the fact. So yeah, this was great. I was really glad that we got to do this.
I'll say I'm a little sad that we didn't get to see this specific art on a card.
Ooh, from the front of the box. Yeah. Okay. Because the other arts were
right
from the other class decks,
or at least portions of them, where they were more zoomed out, so you could kind of see the context of
right. Because a lot of the times it was like, for the volcanic warrior I'm looking at here, for the 2 weapons. Right, you saw that the 2 item cards were like this part of the art and then this part of the art, that kind of thing, to show you that. That's really, so that's a good point. We did get to see it in that regard.
Because I love this art. It's so incredible.
It's great.
And I really kind of think that this guy looks a little bit like the Disturbed logo, the band Disturbed.
Oh, interesting.
And I think that that's...
The Guy, in fact, is the name of the Disturbed character. Yeah.
Well... I love the guy. I think he's really cute and fun. And I think that makes me enjoy this art a little bit more.
I love that you can think that this art is cute. That is fun to me. So it's not bad. That's not a negative critique by any means. I just in no way would call this art cute.
Well, that's not me saying that this specific art is cute.
Sure.
That's me saying that the guy depiction that is Disturbed's logo is cute and fun in concept.
Sure.
And therefore, because I see a stylistic similarity between that and this, it makes me enjoy this more.
Okay. I appreciate that. So yeah, this was an absolute blast, as it always is and always has been. I really do appreciate, like I said, we appreciate the opportunity, and we hope that you will give us your feedback. Did you like the way that we did this video? Did you think that we could change up the way that we did it in some way? Because we want to know your feedback, not only on the deck and the cards, but on the way that we took the time and reviewed the deck and the cards, because, you know, we're not infallible either. So feel free to leave your opinions in the comments down below. Feel free to check out our socials down in the comments below, as well as our other channels, etc. If you want to see more from us, if you're here from the folks at Varia, feel free to check out more of the things that we do. We'd really appreciate you sticking around.
I did talk a little bit less about history in this one than I did about the other decks that we reviewed. So I wonder if that's something that the viewers responded to positively, or if it's something that they felt was a little bit lacking.
Oh yeah, if they missed it, sure.
So leave that in the comments.
We would love to hear your feedback. So yeah, thank you all so very much for watching. As I said, feel free to if you go in the description, all the links that you could possibly need will be there for Varia stuff, Guildhouse Games stuff, our stuff as well. We have, like I said, we have other channels and series too, so definitely check that stuff out. Thank you all.
Please do.
Yes, thank you sincerely for watching. And we really do hope to see you all again very soon. So, for now, from us here at the Geek for All family of channels, I have been Joe.
And I'm Amy.
And as we always say, in whichever video of ours you watch next, we will see you all next time. Thanks, everybody.